Okay, so right now I'm going to show how I like to make, or the method I like to use to make small, teeny tiny jump rings. Which, if you are a jeweler, you'll know that you have to make jump rings and other components many times that are so little you just kind of have to invent your own way of doing it or making it, because there's none that you can buy at a, not that I've found, or I don't think anybody else has found, none that you can buy at such a small scale. But right now I'm using 24 gauge wire, which is about a 0.6 millimeter. Yeah, 0.6. I just pulled out a 0.8 millimeter size drill bit. And so when you have some that are this teeny tiny, you got to use something that's teeny tiny. And as jewelers, we use some really teeny tiny drill bits, so that's what I'm going to use. You can try to use other things sometimes, but even like a 3/32 bit of some sort is going to be too large for this, for what we need. So teeny tiny drill bits come in handy for this. And on a teeny tiny drill bit, you're going to use the solid end, not the end with these swirls that does the cutting. But what I like to do is I like to use my hand vise here to put both items in this hand vise, squeeze them down, tighten it down to where they're both in there pretty good, squished to where they're not gonna move, fall out. You also don't want the bit to be so close to the edge that if you put so much tension on that, it'll snap easy. So I like to put it down in there a little bit, get it taut. And with these earrings I'm making, I think I'm gonna need about 30 jump rings, something like that. So what I'm gonna do is, I got my hand vise here, get my stuff out of my elbows way, and I'm going to pull the wire down, and I'm going to start twisting. Now, you can do either direction that you want. Sometimes I go this way, sometimes I go counterclockwise. Kind of depends on, I guess, just intuition in the moment. I think right now I'm gonna go like this, so that with each swirl you can kind of see. And so whenever you're making the swirls going around the bit, you want to hold the wire taut. And so my 24 gauge wire here is pretty soft. The last project I had to use it on, I had been annealing, and I annealed it quite a bit, so it was left in the annealed state. But if you got some wire that you're using that is a little bit work hardened and is not pretty much dead soft, you're gonna want to anneal it so it gets to that point. And as I turn and make each rotation, it just wraps the wire around the drill bit. So keep turning. And remember, small drill bits, because it's a small amount of material, small steel, it's not going to be extremely break resistant. So you're going to want to be fairly gentle enough with the bit and the pressure that you're using, that you don't snap the bit on accident, because that happens. It can happen pretty easily, especially if you're using a drill bit that's smaller than 0.8. So just keep wrapping. I have about 6 or 7 coils here, so it's going to make about 6 jump rings. Just want to keep wrapping, keep turning, and as you get further up the bit, you can more easily see how it's easy to pull with force an extra amount one way or the other to where it might get to a snapping point. So with it like this, I'm going to hold the wire closer to the bit and then just keep turning, and it should just continually naturally wrap up that drill bit. Oop. And yeah, hold it taut. Make sure your jump rings are going to stay taut. And keep wrapping, keep turning. And you can't really see it, but I am holding the wire with tight pressure to keep the wire at tight pressure to keep wrapping. So it's basically the same concept you do for making normal jump rings, just on a really, really much smaller scale. I've been meaning to get some jump ring mandrels from Pepe Tools, because they make a jump ring maker, but one really nice feature about that is they make a bunch of mandrel sizes that are great for making jump rings for links and bracelet making, necklace making, and stuff like that. So my end is almost to the swirly part of the bit that does the cutting. So I'm going to probably make this my last rotation. And stop right there. So what you can do right there is, you're gonna have to take it off, and if you need more rings after this, you're gonna need to repeat the process. So I'm just gonna cut my wire right there, and you got your coiled up wire around your drill bit. So now pull it out of the vise and check out your handiwork. You can see the end where it was in the vise, so about 1/2 centimeter down into the vise, and then wrapped up the bit. And there's probably about 5, 10, 15, maybe 19 or 20 jump rings I'll get out of this, and I will show you how I like to cut ones that are this small. So I'm gonna have to change the camera angle to show that part. So for cutting a round of teeny tiny jump rings like this, I like to use a small saw blade, which it'll make the gap of your cuts smaller, so you retain this closer to the size of the ring that you've made as much as possible. So I'm using a 8/0 saw blade here, but pull it off of the bit there, and gonna go ahead and just cut this little piece off here because it's not gonna be usable. So cut that little piece off so that when you're holding it, it kind of won't get in your way. And then you just start cutting the rings and separating them out. And one of if you're a jeweler, you know that the incredible benefit of doing them like this all at once is that the angle at which you're cutting them remains the same down the line, so that ends up making the soldering seam that you need basically almost completely flush and even. Minutes sometimes to get it started, of course. I like to hold them in my fingers when they're this little. Some people prefer pliers, which if you're doing a lot for a long time, your fingers are going to get tired, so you might need to switch to pliers. And just start cutting through. So there you can see the end bit fell off. So it got through that first coil, or that first piece of wire, and now it's going to start cutting out coils for jump rings. First one, oh, first two. And you just keep going up the line like that. I think I've got another few broken off there, so. When it's really long, it can get hard to maintain a straight vertical angle of cutting until the coil gets a little bit shorter. So you can see how it's gotten shorter. Now it might be kind of easy to hold it in my first two fingers. Probably gonna need to cut this little piece off. Stick into one of my fingers. But you can see there what I mean. Oh, dropped a couple in my bench pan. I think we're there, guys. Alright, got all those cut through. Let's see how many I ended up with. Alright. 5, 10, 15, 22. Alright, great. So after this, I'll only need to make a few more. Anyways, that's how I like to make them.